Last week on World AIDS Day, President Obama, in that photograph, announced the beginning of the end of AIDS. And we didn't take this announcement or this pledge lightly. And the reality has been, since the day this virus was introduced in the world, for decades, every single year, the number of people who have HIV/AIDS and for whom HIV/AIDS is a death sentence has gone up. That's the reality. And we believe we are now on the cusp of turning that around. The President's pledge was specifically to raise from 4 million to 6 million the commitment of the United States in terms of the number of people on antiretroviral drugs treated with for HIV/AIDS. The next area of intervention that can contribute to massive and sustained reductions in child mortality are vaccines. And it used to be the case that very low percentages of kids around the world and in resource-poor countries around the world actually received vaccines. And then the world came together and created the Global Alliance for Vaccines and Immunization. And the goal of that was to introduce into the package of immunizations 2 new vaccines, one for rotavirus, which tackles diarrhea, and one called the pneumococcal conjugate vaccine, which addresses pneumococcus, a common cause of pneumonia. And those 2 new vaccines, people just assumed would be too costly and therefore unlikely to be introduced into countries around the world. But it happened. And you know, I was just in the Dadaab refugee camp at the Kenya-Somali border, seeing children that had walked with their families and their mothers in particular 60, 70, 80 kilometers, completely emaciated, on the verge of death, coming into this camp, getting screened, getting vaccines. Those children were receiving the pneumococcus conjugate vaccine. I just can't tell you how much people assumed that that vaccine would be too expensive to introduce into resource-poor settings. There is no other more vulnerable setting those kids were getting that vaccine. And that approach across these new vaccines and across more traditional vaccines will essentially help save 4 million kids over the next 5 years as these new vaccines are introduced at huge scale around the world. And I think we in the community of people who fight for global health and for child survival have to do a better job of linking this story to the specific benefits that accrue to our country and to others around the world from these investments. Being able to tell this story is something that, frankly, those of us that have been working for a while in global health don't do nearly as well as we should. And we have a lot to learn from those of you that bring genuine journalistic skills and critical insights to that task. And I do hope that you will write aggressively and often about this issue every chance you get. Thank you.